Now, let us turn our attention to the specific schools of thought, which we referred to as philosophies or paradigms. And the first that we are going to cover in topic 11 of this lecture is positivism, and also referred to as post-positivism. The objective of this topic is that you should be able to discuss how researchers who use this philosophy behave during their research process. What is positivism? Positivism is based on the rational thinking, and it originated with the people like Aristotle, Francis Bacon, John Locke, Auguste Comte, and Immanuel Kant. Those are people you have come across, and they were great philosophers in this world. And they hold that only one reality exists, and it should be measurable, observable, and testable. This means that in anything we experience, we can only explain the existence of that anything in only one way. Anything that is not observable, anything that is not measurable, anything that is not testable cannot be regarded as scientific knowledge. Some of the assumptions those philosophers who use this paradigm have include that the social world can only be studied just the same way the natural world is studied. This means that we should be able to expose the social world into experimental design and measure and test them the same way we do with, say, biology or chemistry or any other natural world field. That is, we can study the social world the same way we study the natural world. But the question is, studying human beings and studying stones, is it the same way? Do we behave the same way when we are studying these natural phenomena as when we are studying human beings? Their way of thinking is that it is also possible to have social science studies that establish cause and effect relationship, just as it happens in the natural world. Meaning that we should follow the same steps, the same behavior that is expected when we are studying, say, the trees, the stones, the natural world. We should use the same way when we are studying the human being. When it comes to whether the knowledge that is generated exists, the positivists still hold that only one reality exists. And if we are going to prove that, then there must be actual indicators that can help us to measure and prove that that existence of that reality is, say, the physical bodies, the breathing we have, the flow of blood. That can be measured using this ontological approach. And therefore, the positivists hold that only one reality can be existing in any environment. And your work as a researcher is to discover that reality. Therefore, researchers, according to the ontology of positivism, can only discover reality within certain realms of probability. And this is the use of specific indicators that are measurable and testable. When it comes to the epistemology of positivism, they believe or they assume that the researcher and the subject of the study are independent and that they do not influence each other. Meaning that when you are studying something, it should not influence your emotions or your feelings or your thinking. You detach yourself from the study itself. But would that happen in a social world when you are studying the human being? Is it possible? And therefore, you'll find that the positivists hold that a researcher should strive to achieve objectivity in research by remaining neutral to prevent their personal values and biases from influencing the research work by following prescribed procedures rigorously. We already know the 7 steps that the scientific method uses. We had covered that in our previous lecture series. In terms of methodology, the pure positivists believe in experimental methods that are used in the natural sciences. However, we will see that positivists also somehow in the development of philosophies, they recognize that this may not be the case, and therefore you might not require the same methodology that you use in the natural science while you are studying the human beings. Why? Because human beings have emotions. They keep on changing their feelings, and therefore you cannot study them as if they are fixed. They keep on changing circumstances of their bodies, of their minds, of their spirit, and perhaps even of their soul. In terms of axiology, which is obviously the principles and the values as we had seen earlier, the positivists hold that the principle that only one explanation can be given for anything. For example, the die-hard positivist Christians believe that only one God exists and any other God does not exist. The same with any other die-hard religious atheists. They do not recognize or give room for the gods of other people because they are positivists in nature. Such individuals are normally narrow in their perspective of the rights of other people. They have no time to listen to them. They don't recognize them. Such individuals also believe that any other person other than themselves will also go to hell. But what proof do they have? But that is their way, and they should be accepted as it is, although with those challenges that I have pointed, or those weaknesses of that kind of philosophical underpinning towards research or the creation of knowledge. Thank you very much for listening to me.